Hello, hello. Thank you for waiting. May I invite everybody to take their seats. Those of you in the back and the VVIP, come on up stage and join us down front. And without further ado, I would like to introduce this next session. You're really going to like this. And this session is led by Catherine Newman, who is with the Trade Desk and Edge Academy. And if you don't know what Edge Academy is, you're about to. It's a fantastic company. This is a great product, and it's a great panel. Catherine, will you please join us and introduce your panelists? Round of applause, please.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? It sounds like it is. Okay, great. So nice to meet everyone. I am Catherine Vucelic. I actually just got married, so I'm Catherine Newman now. And thank you. And I am the Director of Content Marketing at the Trade Desk's Edge Academy. And for those of you who aren't familiar, we are a free education platform for marketers. We have hundreds of hours of course content and certifications, all the way from foundational learnings for programmatic traders who are just starting out in their career, all the way to helping prep senior brand executives for meetings with CMOs and how to prep for the boardroom. So I know I already mentioned it's free, but it is free and you should check it out. It has a lot of great content, things like channel deep dives, etc. So very valuable for both you and your teams. But what I'm here to talk about today is really how we're taking our marketing skills and really continuing to hone them and stay sharp in this ever-evolving landscape that is AI. And with that, I'd really like to introduce Lauren Patani and Shingy to the stage. Hi. Welcome. So both of the folks that I have here are really actively redefining kind of what AI means in our evolving landscape. So I'm going to introduce both of them. First, we have Lauren Patani, VP of Marketing Effectiveness at Pfizer. She previously held the role of Chief Growth Officer at Omnicom Health Group. So obviously, she is a force in both marketing and the pharma world. And right now, she's leading the team that's really redefining measurement and how marketing is actually measured over at Pfizer, and then also kind of really raising the bar on what excellence means for this 175-year-old brand. So welcome, Lauren.
Thank you.
And then we also have Shingy. I think a lot of you may know him as our industry's digital prophet. So he is a self-described creative omnivore and visionary futurist. Shingy has helped plan digital strategy for some of the world's most iconic brands like LVMH, Nike, Verizon. And he is helping to turn really bold ideas into tangible realities that help make our world a bit more enlightened from a digital perspective. So let's give it up for our panelists. And how can I talk about being digitally enlightened without talking about this fundamental AI shift that's happening? So let's get into our questions. So first of all, I feel like a lot of what we hear about AI and AI literacy is a lot of hype. So I'd love to start off with a question for both of you, which is, how are you even defining AI literacy in this day and age, knowing how quickly it constantly changes?
Good question. Is this on? Check, mic 1, 2. Wonderful. So when I think of AI literacy, I think less about how it functions like under the hood. You know, it's about how do you optimize it as a real thought partner. So what problems are you trying to solve? What questions do you need to ask? What processes need to be analyzed? And then how do you maximize the output to make sure it's actually truly your thought partner without, sending you in the wrong direction?
Great. And David? Shingy?
Yeah, let me just digest this for a second. I fundamentally believe none of us are qualified. And given we're not qualified, and I would just simply say this, if I ask any of you right now what's the last thing you produced on AI, you're probably going to say I either rewrote an email or I had them recraft a PowerPoint so I could pitch it back to sound better, or I might have generated some stuff on a generative AI tool. But the reality with that is the literacy, which I can't even say for Christ's sake, is simply this. We're not practitioners in a very practical world. We're pontificators, which is why I'm going to underscore this unqualified, because as I think about it, there's two things that are happening out there, by the way. There is, well, in the US, it's misery in sports. But for the next 2 days, you get to experience joy and fear. And in between there is why we have incredible talent like Lauren trying to make sense of this in a way that makes it feel structured so we can actually learn something as opposed to being just cowboys. And that's why there's a vernacular, a tool, a set of skills that need to be inhabited in your DNA. Because if you don't turn into doers, this thing will pass over you and this industry it'll disrupt itself. So I'm not answering the question directly by saying I think that the reality of it is it just needs to be qualified. We are unqualified.
100%. I think measurement, especially as we have this evolving landscape, becomes even more important with every change that we test and learning and making sure that we actually have a structure in place. You mentioned skills, Shingy. So what skills do you believe will matter the most in 5 years, and which ones do you think are becoming less critical?
Curiosity, surprise, and practicality are the 3 skills that I give a shit about. What becomes less relevant to me is data, data, data. And the reason why I say that, and if I may, let me just get this off my chest right now because it may not happen otherwise, which is everybody's implementing AI the wrong way around. And Lauren, if you want to shoot this down, please have a crack at it. But here's the problem that I find most people do. The first thing they say is, here's the tool that I'm using. Then they're like, what tech do we need? Maybe we'll dick around with some data. What staff do we need? Do we have enough in-house, not in-house, whatever? And then the very, very, very last thing is, what problem are we solving? What's the impact on the culture of the business? When if you turn it around the other way and say, what are we trying to do? What is the impact going to be like in culture? Do we even deserve to play there? Do we have a great data stack? What's the tech we need to overlay on top of it? And if not, what's the staff requirement? Ultimately, do we need to buy or build? And we're implementing it the wrong way. And if you think I'm wrong, step outside to that sword fest outside. There are so many dudes out there that are selling MarTech. God bless them. God bless them. But we're missing the relevancy piece, if that makes sense. Am I okay to say that? Are we good so far? There are exactly 8 people in here, so Christ, we can. Lauren, you want to shoot that down maybe?
Not shoot it down. It's just looking at it from a slightly different perspective. To me, it's about the culture of experimentation and curiosity. I work at Pfizer, I work in pharma, so we're talking, a highly regulated industry, so there has to be some guardrails, but you're spot on. Most people look at AI as a side tool, and they don't truly think to themselves, what is the problem I'm trying to solve? And is AI the appropriate thought partner to do so? I just happen to work for, a 175-year-old company. We are far from AI native, but there are so many internal and external problems in healthcare that it's not unique to Pfizer, but the industry is trying to sort out that, I feel like from a skill set perspective, creating a culture of safe experimentation, starting with your leadership, and being able to ask the right questions to see if we're even on the right track to push towards your goals and remove the barriers that are hindering those goals. That's what you really have to unpack before you even launch into an AI platform.
But can I ask a follow-up question?
Of course.
Because if you think about the power of Trade Desk, they do all of the incredible things to make sure that where you put the right image at the right place with the right communication level, and if it's not right, it'll very quickly tell you it isn't, so you can correct that. If you think about the tools that they put in place, does it give organizations confidence today that they should be experimenting with these tools in a play that feels safe? And I'm asking you that as somebody who represents pharma. Mm-hmm. It's incredibly difficult for what you do, but surely there's some way that creativity can accelerate, particularly when you have so many rules. that there's a great way to modify that so creation happens faster. So those things that we care about, the 16 panels before us, probably would have talked about efficiencies, KPIs, outcomes, all that sort of shit that I don't give two rats about. But I care about what does it do to touch humans. And efficiencies come along, stunning.
Yeah.
Do they give you the safeguards to say, right, these are these are the perimeters we can't pass. These tools get us to an outcome much faster. Does it work like that? Does it give leadership confidence?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. Again, it depends on the circumstance or the problem we're trying to solve. What I can say is, as we in pharma and life sciences move forward and continue to educate ourselves on the different AI platforms, what we are seeing as a truism is an acceleration to creativity, an acceleration to engagement with patient populations, some healthcare professionals that it's not that we're not engaged with them, but the old way of doing things used to take so much time and so much investment, and that's a rate limiting factor. Meanwhile, there are entire patient populations that are waiting for a particular therapy or access. So it's a little long-winded answer, but what I'm seeing in the investments that we're making in various AI-driven solutions is almost an egalitarian way to make everyone far more strategic than they were in the past, because you're removing some of the hurdles to get to those answers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that it's really important that we continue to emphasize marketing fundamentals and really build a strong foundation with our marketing teams so that we can be the ones who are actually defining those questions, defining the objectives and the guardrails, and using AI as kind of a co-pilot tool to things like creativity, data, measurement. So I love that both of you have such different perspectives on this matter, but then they sort of merge. Lauren, how are you thinking about, you already talked about kind of defining this culture where teams feel empowered to experiment with AI, but how do you think about upskilling teams to keep pace with AI versus the balance of hiring new, more AI-forward candidates?
So I sit in the chief marketing office at Pfizer. That's a centralized group of teams that represent some of like your basic pillars of marketing, whether it's creativity or data science or, of course, market research and of course, AI, media optimization, and so on. I'm not saying that the way that our organization approaches this is the right way, but it seems to be working really well, where it's a marriage between selective external hires that come from far more, I think, tech-forward or non-restrictive industries that have traditionally been, a challenge for pharmaceutical or biotech, with those of us who came up in this industry. And of course, we know our customers, we know how the sales force engages with our healthcare professionals and retail pharmacists and hospital systems and what have you. We know the legal and regulatory environment and the science behind it. So what I'm seeing is a marriage of, a lot of the ex-Googlers who've come to Pfizer and Disney and P&G and, all walks of life within the chief marketing office, with those of us who are straight up pharma biotech marketers from like way back in the early 90s, where none of us had a digital footprint. And it was very much like kind of finger in the air. And upskilling those marketers like myself. So because we share the same, it sounds so cliche, but we do share the same North Star. We want to responsibly and efficiently engage in an authentic way that matters to patients and their families, all healthcare professionals, hospitals, insurers, retail pharmacists, because everyone's trying to get the quality of care that they deserve, and that they need. So it's a combination of both. I'd say most of the investment is on the internal upskilling. I'm going through this with my teams, and leadership is very adamant and very progressive about, we're going to try this, and if it doesn't work out, then we're going to fail fast and move in a different direction. And that's, I think that's what all organizations, that are global and, somewhat staid as Pfizer is, should be.
Can I add
same.
something to that?
Of course.
Because I love that a company as large and as old as Pfizer can recognize that within a division. I'm being brought in to train entire organizations from the top to the very bottom in these immersive AI weeks, which you think, oh, that really feels like that might have been a marketing function. That's no longer the case, because each one of the tools can solve a problem depending on what division you sit in. But I want a follow-up question to that, which is, do you find that the production of communication quality to somebody who's trying to find the solution, me the patient, you the communicator, are you finding these tools help speed up the quality of communication, e.g. creativity, or hinders it?
Helps, absolutely helps, because it gets you to at least the first, second, third iteration so much faster than, in my experience, traditionally with, say, an agency partner. And I ran an agency at Omnicom before I became Chief Growth Officer, so I know what's required in terms of the ideation and the connection with the insights to be able to get to the right campaign, for lack of a better word. I prefer authentic narratives that matter to people. As an African American woman growing up in the States, you recognize that there are nuances by population, and some of them are grounded in really scary history. So I support our vaccine franchise. African American folks are not the only communities that are a little reticent about vaccines, and it's grounded in Henrietta Lacks. It's grounded in the Tuskegee experiment. How do you get to those populations in an authentic way, in a creative way that matters, that meets them where they are? It's even beyond socioeconomic status. It's perspective, it's trust, and it's getting them to what they need in order to prevent preventable diseases. So again, a very long-winded answer to your very straightforward question. From a creative perspective, there's an acceleration that gets to improved narratives, improved engagements that are authentic and matter to the patients.
Yeah, I think this element of brainstorming and supercharging creative activity is really interesting, and definitely somewhere that we've seen a lot of marketing organizations start to engage AI. And I think both of you sort of walked right into my next question very easily here, which is, we know that AI can sometimes create this shortcut. So how can we make sure that our teams are using it for better thinking versus just to get to the end result?
You want to crack at that first?
I might do a great imitation of you right now. You don't. I mean, it's very hard to get it right, I find. And that's why I'll circle back to the first comment I made, which is understanding what is the problem you're trying to solve, and then knowing how to ask that. And sometimes you don't even know where to begin. So I have, whether it's Copilot or Claude, I have the platform interview me. Like, here's what I'm thinking, and I don't know how to get at it. You know me, you have access to all my work files. Interview me, and so I can figure out how to get started. But it's an imperfect process, and everyone does things in their own style. Plus, even if we had more consistent approaches, you can ask the same question to an AI platform and you can ask it 5 times, get 5 different answers. So it's a matter of making sure that how you approach the AI platform with the right questions, and then continue the iteration process it's kind of an art and a science, and I think it's an imperfect one.
Can I ask of the audience, who works for a big company in here? More than 100 people, that's big to me, whatever, let's go there. So young lady with the glow-in-the-dark wristband, you, hi. Do you get AI tools provided to you by your employer?
We do. We have a number of AI tools.
Could you name what those tools are, please?
Yes, we have ChatGPT Enterprise, we have Core Enterprise, as well as a lot of our legacy MarTech tools are now
And of those sponsored tools that are provided to you, is the vast majority, I'm going to stereotype you just for a second, so definitely say no to this. Is the vast majority of what you use your corporate tools for to rewrite email that you need to craft and send back, and or rewrite presentations so you're able to pitch them more eloquently? And or my follow-up question is, do you use those corporately sponsored chat tools to be able to do your own research, personal research, not work?
The majority of my work on those AI tools are not just for rewriting emails and not just for, strengthening presentations, which of course I use it for. I use it a lot for brainstorming, creative briefs, to your point, interviewing, trying to
Yeah.
get to the core of the idea. I use it for running fast data aggregation. I
Yeah.
have agents who are running reports that used to take me 3 hours,
Yeah.
done daily.
Got it.
So,
Are you a strategist?
and now,
What's your role?
well, I'm a senior director.
Okay, you're a strategist. So can I ask a question? So I'm literally asking people every day how they're using these tools. 40% of people with corporate sponsored tools are using it for email and presentation rewrites. Here's the what's up on all of this thing. You said brainstorming, love that, love. That's very, very high. Guess what those tools are doing to you? Isolating you. So that brainstorming shit that you're doing is stuff we used to do together in a room together. What happens in corporates when I walk in, people got headphones on and all this shit. Nobody is actually interacting or walking around or working around each other once they have the efficiencies of these tools. So be very careful that these tools don't make you a lonely worker in a very large organization. That's part of the challenge. Sam Altman is also suggesting that 95% of creativity is going to be automated. Let's get to that conclusion much faster, because it means that all of this crappy work can get out of the way and incredible efficient communication can then be efficiently bought and placed through these sort of channels. Because I don't ever want to hear the term, I don't want to work in an industry where the term called AI slut becomes the word of the year, when all these tools that you talk about sounds amazing to me. That's not what the vast majority of people are doing with them. They're just not. We're glamorizing the workflow of people that don't know how to use it. So we're moving to a different type of, if I had to use a word, economy, we're moving to a different type of economy, and that economy is called the ask community. And I'm going to go and ask this community, better known as ChatGPT, for a bunch of things that normally we do in the surroundings of others. So it's making us lonely workers. I'm very concerned about that.
Yeah.
But surveying your people inside your organization and how they're using those tools is the number one thing I'd be doing if I was running an organization today.
You're leading me right to my next question, which is...
Well, thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, I wanted to pose the same thing to Lauren, actually, which is, how are you already seeing AI kind of meaningfully impact your team's work day to day?
So what inspires me, although we all have like epiphany moments sometimes when we're working in these platforms, and I mean, I know I do, and when it gets me what I need when I need it so quickly and frees me up. But what I find inspiring is actually the co-creation sessions that we do. You are right, we are running the risk of being able to plug something in and have a pretty high quality output very quickly, cheaply, but we could run the risk of becoming a very isolated, set of professionals, and that's across industry. But I don't know, I'm both optimistic and pessimistic. I'm optimistic about the fact that the healthcare industry is so broken in this country. We have so many problems that's going to take way more brains than just an AI solution. That I think that we will continue to be successful because we sit together and say, all right, we're going to do this together, because more brains on this will ask the right questions, will solve the right problems using AI. So there's that. But also what I'm inspired by is again, it sounds so cliche, but this democratization of really smart tech. So I've been in this industry for a really long time. I've been an agency president. I've done well on the agency side. I'm doing well on the client side, the Pfizer side. But I still, and probably because I've got so much tenure and experience, I still feel a little paranoid when I'm in a large session and I want to ask certain questions. I want to pose something that asshole voice inside my head says, aren't you supposed to know that already? I don't worry anymore, because I have a thought partner that helped me brief, that helped me prepare and be more provocative, be less risk averse, because I feel so much more, I just got really deep, this became a therapy session, but I do feel like sometimes when used properly and in collaboration with strong team members, it levels up everyone's strategic thinking, because you have to, I sound like a little bit like a broken record, but you have to make sure that you are marching to the right North Star, that you are trying to solve the relevant problem and not get distracted by the noise, if that makes sense.
Catherine, is that how you feel about it at the trade desk? Is that how you work with it?
Yeah, I mean, we, as I mentioned earlier, we really view it as a co-pilot to, thinking and driving our plans. But I wanted to touch on the creative ideation and brainstorming bit, because again, this whole panel is really about how we kind of continue to encourage our teams to really build up those fundamentals, make sure that they understand how to really think strategically and drive the right questions, whether they're engaging with AI or not. And I think one of those elements of that brainstorm, using an AI tool to have an output that's either creative or ideation or brief based, comes down to the fact that usually when we're on our own thinking, we're throwing out our first 50 ideas anyways, right? And so I think AI is really helping us to get to some of those, I think Lauren said it earlier, to some of those different tiers of thinking much more quickly, while just making sure that if we do have those strategic strengths, we're able to really suss out what is the right way forward here, what are the right options that AI has provided me, and really, again, being the strategic owner of our work.
Can I ask a follow-up question for you, being the moderator of this panel?
Sure. I hope I can answer it.
So, are you using these tools? Are you building proprietary tools inside your systems that are interrogating your own proprietary data? So you're cross-matching that with open source tools? So ChatGPT plus Trade Desk Edge AI, for example. And then you end up with a really intelligent data set that's proprietary to you.
So within the Trade Desk platform, we're really using, we're not engaged with ChatGPT from a work perspective yet, but we are really using AI tools within our platform as kind of enablers and not quite differentiators. And I think Lauren was talking about it earlier, that measurement is really what's gonna hold these tools accountable in whatever iteration we create them in. And so, what I am here for, from an Edge Academy perspective, because we are the free education platform that is agnostic within the Trade Desk, is just making sure that our tools are available so that marketers can actually build up those strategic strengths, so that when they're using these tools, whether it's outside of the Trade Desk platform or within the platform, they understand how to really know what's working for them and what's not, because they've defined those objectives and they've defined that strategy.
And do you apply them inside Pfizer? Like, you've got a third-party proprietary tool, third-party open tool, and I didn't mean chat specifically, but an example of one, combined with your own proprietary data, and you're building proprietary AI tools to glean those insights that make you more effective?
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
So, and part of that is by necessity. We are not, at least yet, allowed to use ChatGPT within Pfizer. There's security concerns.
Right.
And all, like HIPAA, privacy, all that fun stuff. But I mean, there are some platforms we use Copilot. It's just a Microsoft, that's one. We also use Claude. That's just in marketing, though. So there are platforms being developed internally to identify patient populations, to help expedite clinical development recruitment. That's all. That part of the reason why it sometimes takes 10 to 15 years plus to take a molecule from animal testing to, FDA approval, is because depending on if it's a rare disease, it's very hard to identify, and recruit for certain patient populations. These are real, huge scientific problems that my brilliant clinical development partners at Pfizer are looking into from an AI perspective, and that's to me even I can't remember who just said on the previous panel, I love marketing, but that shit right there, I mean, that's going to save lives if you can like jump ahead. And I actually hope that it's not just pharma, but also like emerging biotech, who are likely far more AI native these days than you know, Pfizer, Merck, Glaxo.
Great, and we're almost at time, so I have a couple more questions. I know we talked a lot kind of about the benefits and about some of the risks, but what excites both of you the most about this intersection of, you know, AI and skill development within our marketing workforce?
Do you want me to just throw into that real quick? It does two things for me. It allows me to tap into my polymath nature as a human, meaning I think that if I multitask and do 5 things simultaneously, I'm going to be a better superhuman. Maybe. But it sure as shit gives me the power to feel like I can, so my confidence is better. Do I trust it? No. So that there's a positive and a negative to that. The other positive to me is the ability for all of that intellectual knowledge and all that data we've been storing and collecting for the last several decades is now being put to a use to an interface where I can actually see the result of it. So I see an expression of it. So I'm super, super open to it.
I'll restate what I said before. Like the approach to abbreviating clinical development to get the right therapies to the right populations faster is super exciting to me. That's just one example. But in general, I do appreciate when applied properly as a marketing strategist that it does seem to level everyone up to be able to take the time to think intentionally and thoughtfully and solve our business problems in a far more sophisticated and expedited way without, like, you know, sometimes you just circle the drain, and sometimes it's just a matter of needing to get started. You know, just help me get, instead of starting from scratch, help me just get to this first draft, and maybe I'll just take it from there. As simple as that. So I think it's exciting, but trust me, there are moments where I'm fearful of the implications. You know, we've all seen this movie before, right? It has to be used in a constructive and productive way and not get ahead of us.
Yeah, completely agree. Well, it was great to talk to both of you today. Thank you so much. And again, if anyone is looking for ways to kind of build on their own skill set in this evolving landscape, please check out Edge Academy. We have a free library of courses for all of these fundamental learnings that we were speaking about today. But thank you both very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Catherine.
you.
Very
Thank you.
awesome.